Stephen A. Smith and Ryan Clark slammed the clowns, making a mockery of women's sports. The WNBA has nobody to blame but its incompetent leadership for dragging Caitlin Clark into this toxic media spectacle.
Yeah, I think Cathy Engelbert has to start as the commissioner to look at this thing from a professionalism standpoint when it comes to the WNBA, which in my opinion was started with her and her dealings with the WNBA and their union as they were trying to get some of these deals done. The way she treated them, Napheesa Collier had to come out and say, okay, this is the way that I was responded to. I think that was the first black eye. But then you do this deal after 30 years, and now they are getting paid to be professionals, and you do have the TV contracts, and now you're putting yourself in a position to uplift this league, right? For this league to truly ascend in the eyes of the viewers, in the eyes of the fans, and then every week it's in starting back and forth about things that aren't basketball. What should be being talked about in this league is the Minnesota Lynx and Olivia Miles, who's come in as a rookie and taken over the league, and now Napheesa Collier is back. Right, Kayla McBride hits 10 threes over the weekend. Talk about that. You know, talk about the Golden State Valkyrie, who now with Gabby Williams is a team that's there in second place as an expansion team. Oh, by the way, Asia Wilson still hoops. The Las Vegas Aces are still good. And Chelsea Gray does something phenomenal every single week as the point guard. Like, be real. Indiana matters, right? You got Kelsey Mitchell, this woman getting like a PhD and hitting 30 a game. And then you got Caitlin Clark, who, yes, no matter what anybody says, it could be different ways, right? She could be one of the faces of the league, and you can acknowledge that she still has to get better at basketball, but that she matters. And so to me, it's about pushing the right things, not only if you're in front of people's minds. And the last thing is for me is if we are men, right, and as former athletes, and we understand how hard it is to get respect in the game, don't make a mockery of what these women are going through. Don't make jokes about things you'll never understand. Stay out of it. If you don't have some input, either right or wrong, that could be, whether it's impactful or helpful, then let them people be. Because dudes who can no longer play, who want to make jokes about something that is incredibly serious.
Just when everyone thought the disrespect reached its limit, the ultimate shocker landed. Two 6'10" NBA men officially entering the draft.
This is involving the WNBA. And this is involving Enes, Kanter, Freedom, and Royce White. On Friday, this past Friday, October 7th, 2026, they both announced that they intend, these are men, one is 6 feet 10, 250 pounds. Last time we saw him in the NBA, he's 34 years of age. The other's about 6'8", 260 pounds. He's 35 years of age and a former 16th overall. Listen to what he said.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA Draft in May 2027. I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I am simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. The rules that represent the very values many WNBA players and coaches have publicly advocated for. My team and I are prepared to ensure these guidelines are applied equally, consistently, and without exception. And I look forward to the WNBA honoring its stated principles.
WNBA, listen to him.
Earlier this week, I made the announcement. I'm transgender. I'm a woman. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman for purposes of basketball, professional basketball. So I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027 as well. I mean, I think I'd be unstoppable, but I'm a team first guy. I'm a pass first kind of player. I do the little things. I led my team in all 5 major stat categories at Iowa State University. So I do a little bit of everything. I'll do whatever the coach needs me to do. I'll do whatever the girls
not be used as political pawns. Here's Stephen A. talking. It's too damn late. It's too damn late. If your rules were more finite and clear, you wouldn't have to have a meeting of team presidents and general managers. You're the commissioner. You should already know. We literally are living in a society where there has to be a debate involving a collective bargaining agreement.
A chaotic media storm has just erupted across the professional sports landscape, exposing an administrative nightmare and a complete leadership failure at the highest levels of the WNBA. In an unprecedented move that sent shockwaves through front offices, two former NBA male athletes, Enes Kanter, standing 6'10" and weighing 250 pounds, and Royce White, standing 6'8" and weighing 260 pounds, publicly announced their intention to declare for the 2027 WNBA Draft. One is a 34-year-old former number 3 overall pick who spent over a decade battling rim protection in the NBA, while the other is a 35-year-old former first-round selection out of Iowa State and a high-profile political candidate. Framed as a direct legal challenge to the league's player eligibility standards, their joint announcement uncovered a staggering regulatory vacuum inside the WNBA collective bargaining agreement. Article 13, Section 1A of the CBA states with deceptive simplicity that only players who are women are eligible to compete. However, the agreement completely fails to define the legal, biological, or medical criteria for what constitutes a woman, omitting explicit guidelines on gender identity, sex assigned at birth, hormone thresholds, or physical characteristics. This omission left the league wide open to exploitation, administrative paralysis, and ruthless public ridicule. Enes Kanter and Royce White exploited this administrative negligence with surgical precision, forcing the league into a massive ideological corner. Kanter publicly declared that if self-identification alone fulfills the league's eligibility criteria, he meets every single requirement to compete in the WNBA, mockingly telling fans he would see them at training camp. Meanwhile, Royce White openly declared that he identifies as a woman for basketball purposes and promised he would be an unstoppable force on the floor as a pass-first playmaker. This coordinated stunt forced WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert into a desperate tailspin, sending out emergency memos to team presidents and general managers to form a specialized task force. But ESPN commentator Stephen A. Smith immediately torched the commissioner's reactive posture live on air, shouting that it is far too late for committee meetings. When a sports league fails to establish finite, airtight rules from the beginning, administrative hesitation becomes absolute public relations suicide. Stephen A. Smith pointed out the undeniable truth. If executive leadership had instituted clear, biological parameters from day one, WNBA executives wouldn't be scrambling behind closed doors while political opportunists turn their league into a national punchline. The institutional incompetence at WNBA headquarters reaches far beyond gender eligibility loopholes. On ESPN and independent sports networks, former NFL star and sports analyst Ryan Clark delivered a scathing indictment of Cathy Engelbert's entire leadership record. Clark pointed out that after 30 long years of struggle, the WNBA finally secured lucrative multi-billion-dollar media contracts and elevated its players to true professional status. Yet, instead of building a premium sports brand around elite athletic performance, the league's messaging has degenerated into a weekly dumpster fire. Network television feeds are constantly hijacked by toxic non-basketball arguments, petty feuds, and loudmouthed players who barely average 10 points a game. Ryan Clark highlighted how the league's corporate leadership allowed media discourse to focus on off-court controversies rather than celebrating the game's actual stars. When executive management permits divisive narratives to dominate the airwaves, it alienates mainstream sports fans, destroys locker room morale, and undermines 30 years of hard-fought athletic legitimacy.
Ryan Clark demanded an immediate culture shift from top executives, calling on corporate leaders and broadcast networks to stop feeding toxic drama and return the focus to high-level basketball. The WNBA is currently experiencing a golden era of athletic talent that deserves national recognition. The Minnesota Lynx are being spearheaded by sensational rookie guard Olivia Miles, who has taken over the league with unprecedented poise, alongside the triumphant return of MVP candidate Napheesa Collier and veteran Kayla McBride, who recently scorched defenses by sinking 10 three-pointers in a single weekend. Over in Las Vegas, Aja Wilson continues to deliver phenomenal, historic performances night in and night out, while the Golden State Valkyries prepare to enter the league with elite international talent like Gabby Williams. Furthermore, Indiana Fever stars Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark represent an economic and cultural juggernaut that has reshaped women's sports history. Mitchell is dominating on the court while pursuing a PhD, while Caitlin Clark has drawn millions of new viewers, packed NBA-sized arenas, and generated record-breaking television ratings that rival major men's sports broadcasts.
Yet, instead of protecting and elevating its biggest asset, WNBA leadership allows bad faith media figures, hostile critics, and divisive commentators to turn Caitlin Clark into a political lightning rod. Clark's unprecedented economic draw has elevated the entire financial ecosystem of women's basketball, securing multi-million-dollar television rights, charter flights, and massive brand partnerships for every player in the league. But rather than rallying behind Clark and celebrating her historic impact, corporate executives have permitted bitter media personalities and insecure enforcers to undermine her success. This corporate mishandling has created a lawless environment where former male athletes feel entitled to step in and turn women's sports into a public circus. Ryan Clark issued a fierce mic drop warning to commentators and former male athletes who make jokes about the WNBA situation. As former professional athletes who understand how brutal it is to earn respect in elite sports, Clark declared that any retired male player mocking the serious struggles of female athletes is acting like an absolute clown. Former athletes should understand the blood, sweat, and sacrifices required to build professional respect, rather than weaponizing administrative flaws for cheap social media clout.
The root cause of this media meltdown lies squarely at the feet of Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and WNBA executive management. By refusing to enforce clear boundaries, neglecting basic regulatory definitions, and failing to protect locker rooms from hostile media coverage, WNBA leadership has handed political opportunists the exact ammunition needed to undermine female athletes. When front offices operate with cap space hell, roster mismanagement, and zero administrative discipline, the entire product suffers. The WNBA currently stands at a critical historical crossroads. The exploding fan engagement, record-breaking broadcast ratings driven by Caitlin Clark, and rising franchise valuations prove that the public demand for women's basketball has never been higher. However, no professional sports league can sustain long-term growth when its executive office suffers from perpetual administrative cowardice, reactive PR management, and spiraling communications failures. If Cathy Engelbert and team governors continue to let toxic culture and legal ambiguity dictate the narrative, the league will implode from within. Front offices must stop playing defensive public relations and start enforcing strict, transparent professional standards. Until executive leadership draws an immovable line in the sand, the WNBA will remain trapped in a media war of its own making.
Thanks for watching Basketball Central. What do you think about today's story? Do you agree with our take, or do you see it differently? Let us know in the comments. We read them all and love hearing your opinions. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to Basketball Central, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest WNBA news, breaking stories, and in-depth analysis. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.